Laughing, hoping that I get signed. Now I own my own tracks, riding waves of the hypermind. Popular and dirt poor broke, that ain't my type of grind. If I got started.
Welcome to 3countcommentaries, in which I try to make sense of AEW Dynamite from July 20th, 2022. So, alright. News and notes. Let's get right into it. So, the Aubrey Edwards DMCA issue, which so many people have been telling me to talk about. And I really just don't know that much about it outside of, and I followed it a little bit. Apparently, the story is that Aubrey Edwards has been using a dead guy's name to file DMCA claims on behalf of AEW. Now, apparently what happened is, as far as I know, is this tweeter named Buck Starsky, used to be a pro wrestler who now moves on to AEW, and well, into AEW's information services. And while there, he found that they were filing copyright claims against AEW botches, etc. But AEW did not have a DMCA agent. So apparently, what happened is somebody signed up a guy named Don Stevens to be the DMCA agent for AEW, and then he began to file DMCA claims against AEW botches, ROH botches, the Kenny Olivier Twitter account, etc., etc. And apparently, from this account, it was traced to Aubrey Edwards. So this has been going under the radar, and it's actually something I really, because none of this stuff has been confirmed, even though there is some evidence here. You know, there's evidence that there was no All Elite Wrestling DMCA agent, and then there was out of nowhere, and it was filed. It was effective July the 5th, 2022. So I don't know. You know, it's hard to tell. Look, I'm going to be difficult on this one because I want to side with people who are just posting clips. And that's all really ROH botches, AEW botches, etc. That's all they do. All they do is post clips. They don't really play a lot of the audio for AEW, so it's not to be misconstrued with, reusing AEW's content because it doesn't have the same audio most of the time. So I don't really understand why they would go through all of this. It seems a little bit much to me, especially when, you had the Botchamania thing, and everybody seems to love that, and everybody's okay with it. But because there's a botch account specifically for AEW, all of a sudden that's a problem. That seems very weird to me. At the same time, AEW does have the right to their intellectual property. And you have to ask the question, what is a reasonable amount of clips to be posted? And the way that they use the information. And it's odd. But I generally want to side on behalf of the accounts and say to AEW, look, just get over it. They're not replaying the shows or anything like that. They're basically doing a lot of extra editing, so it's not going to get mixed up with an AEW broadcast. They're doing zoom ins on the crowd, they're zooming in on the referee, or they may zoom in on the spot. They may do replays and all kinds of stuff. They're actually doing something transformative with the information. They're not just replaying it, music and all. They're actually actively adding and subtracting things from the show, so it wouldn't get mixed up with any other show. And that seems to be the problem is that AEW is just upset that its account is exposing some of the mistakes that they have, and now they want to take it off the internet. It's really unfortunate. It's really, really, really unfortunate that we have to go through this. But it seems to be what AEW wants to do. Now, as far as the horse-faced Bojack referee is concerned, AEW has done a good job of finally not saying anything. For the first time in forever, they're kind of just ignoring this and pretending that it is not happening. And it's kind of the best way to do it because all of these accounts who are talking about it are, I don't know how else to put it, but they're basically troll accounts. And that's the reason why I didn't do anything about it, is because, like, okay, when you look at it, it's a lot of AEW troll accounts, you know, and it's also being boosted by Ringside News, which can't be trusted. So it's like, okay, can you really trust this stuff? You know, and I don't really want to go through it, and it's a lot of horse shit. You know, I just don't want to do that. But it's been going on for a while. Enough people have talked about it where it's worth discussing as a note, even if it's just a conspiracy theory. Apparently, the false DMCA claims began right after they started doing the Aubrey Edwards specific episodes, which focused on overlaying her commentary from the podcast. I forget what the podcast is called, Uncensored or something like that, Unrestricted. And overlaying that with her doing actually the things that she said she would never do, and how she doesn't want to steal spotlight from the wrestlers and stuff like that. They overlaid that onto her actually doing it. And that was very interesting. I'm telling you, I enjoy AEW botches. I do. It's fun. But that's how I look at it. I look at it as it's a fun thing. You know, I think AEW is making more of it than they should. And I know WWE is not much better. In fact, they could be absolute Nazis about, you know, their intellectual property, much like Disney. You know, I don't see how you get away with posting anything in Disney. I just don't see how you get away with it. People manage to do it. But take this all with a grain of salt, because again, a lot of these accounts, it's difficult to know how legitimate this is, and it could just be guys trying to get a rise out of AEW. So it is what it is. Okay, so the second note is going to be from Road Dogg. Road Dogg says some interesting stuff. For starters, there was some talk that Billy Gunn was trying to get Road Dogg to come to AEW, and that maybe it was Billy Gunn was talking to Tony Khan to get him in. Well, apparently it must not have worked, because Road Dogg absolutely lit into AEW on his podcast. He says, and I quote, "I will talk to them about television wrestling and what we're doing here. When you watch it, it looks like an indie show that somebody filmed with some nice cameras. People will win their match, get their hand raised, and just turn around and start walking away. It's like, oh, that's a great shot. Thank you, dude, who just won the match, and now you give me your A-crack and your back to look at. You have to think about this like it's a television show, because it is." And then he says that he's talking about Wardlow, and he says, quote, "I wasn't a fan. It took him 18 minutes to beat Orange Cassidy. First, they give him the jabroni title. It doesn't mean nothing when he was a guy that seemed like he was the guy. And maybe he is in the future. I just don't think you needed to give him that other than the best title. And then it took him 18 minutes to beat the jokey guy. I didn't understand it at all. It was literally booking 101. You put your big, huge, beautiful baby face against this other beautiful baby face with a gang of guys out there. Like, what are we trying to do here? What are you trying to do in this segment? What story are you telling? Is it just a good win for Wardlow? Okay, 6 minutes. Kick me, kick me, kick me. Go for the super kick, and I powerbomb the crap out of you." Everybody seems to have a problem with the way that Wardlow is being booked. And the most hilarious thing is Jim Cornette giving away Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis' phone numbers on his podcast, because what's going on with Wardlow has been absolutely criminal. So there's a lot to talk about here. For starters, Road Dogg is talking about the lack of showmanship in AEW when he talks about people just getting their hand raised and then they turn around and walking away. You see a lot of that in the territories. And, you know, when WWE, when a guy wins, they play into the crowd. You know, they turn to the face the camera, they play into the crowd, they may go to the turnbuckle, raise their arms up or whatever. It's very rarely a, you know, systematic raise of the arm, then you turn to leave the ring or whatever. And I didn't really notice it, to be quite honest, in AEW. But then again, you know, he's a producer, he's looking for that sort of thing. But, so that didn't really bother me that much, but I understand what he means, and I understand where he's coming from. The idea that it looks like an independent show with nice cameras, I think that's what they want. And I think if you brought that up to an AEW, somebody who was a fan, they would say that would point to that as being a good thing about the show, is that it looks like an indie show with better lighting and better cameras and bigger buildings and more money. That's kind of the feeling that they want. They don't want it to feel like WWE or how TNA felt. They want it to feel a little bit renegade, a little bit, off the wall, a little bit wonky. It's very weird that they would go that direction with it. But that's what they want. They want it to feel much like, the promotions they grew up watching, the Ring of Honors and stuff like that. PWG. He said that they gave Wardlow the Jabroni title, which is funny. Because I don't think that's the TNT belt has become the Jabroni title because of the guys who held it. And the guys who held it have not been quality since Cody dropped it the first time. And I know that some people think very highly of Brody Lee, but I don't. It seemed like the only other TNT champion I really liked was I liked Cody, I liked Darby, and I liked Miro. Everybody else, not really. Not really a big fan of the Sammy Guevara stuff. Really just not. Terrible stuff with Scorpio Sky. And Wardlow is a guy that I like. And they're going to try to use him to rehab the credibility of the title. And that brings us, which is fine. I'm okay with that because they're kind of doing that with Gunther in WWE and they're kind of doing that with Lashley in WWE. You make the mistake of putting the belt on guys who aren't over, or you put the belt on guys who just are one-dimensional. They can't, reach out and do more with these titles. So you put the belt on somebody you want to at least elevate them, and they elevate the title in equal measure. Okay, fine. We want to do that? All right. Thumbs up. I'm going to disagree with Road Dogg right there. But I agree with him when it comes to Orange Cassidy. For starters, he shouldn't have been booked against another babyface anyway. This is a big, big problem in modern wrestling. They don't adhere to basic wrestling common sense. I talked about this when I talked about NXT. They had Axiom debut. I then had Axiom debut against another babyface. And it's like, no, you don't do that. Because if you put him in the ring with another babyface, what's the worst that could happen? A split crowd? No, the worst that could happen is the crowd turns on him. Now, you're taking a chance with Wardlow because Wardlow is huge babyface, and so is Orange Cassidy. And look, I don't have to like Orange Cassidy to tell the truth about Orange Cassidy. The truth is that the crowd really, really likes him. And because the crowd really, really likes him, they don't want to see him get beat up. They don't want to see him go out there and get powerbombed. 6 minutes, it's over. That's not what they want. And doing that will turn the crowd against Wardlow. But that was the right thing to do. But you don't want to turn the crowd against Wardlow. So what do? You don't do that. You don't put Orange Cassidy in that position. You put somebody else right there. Who? I don't know. I'm not the booker. Figure somebody out. Figure it out. Put Ethan Page right there or something. If you wanted to have a legitimate match of 18 minutes, put Ethan Page right there. And still, I wouldn't even say Ethan Page should go 18 minutes with Wardlow. I just don't believe that should be the case. We should be establishing him as a monster. He should be killing guys. So, Road Dogg said a lot. I really felt what he was talking about when he was talking about Wardlow. I kind of respect that. I respect it quite a bit. So it's been a tough time, dog. It's been tough. All right, so let's get into the show finally. Okay, Brody King defeats Darby Allin. What they did to Darby Allin today, or on this show rather, is what they should have done to Orange Cassidy last week. Or somebody else, but with Wardlow. Just had Brody King. Brody King was spinning him around in circles, similar to what Brock Lesnar did to Seth Rollins. And it was impressive then, it's impressive now. Brody King wins with the Gonzo Bomb. Not a big fan of Brody King anymore. I thought he was okay in Ring of Honor. I'm not really seeing the spark that he had in Ring of Honor. I'm not seeing that here. I think it's the gimmick though. He was doing a different kind of character in Ring of Honor. So, after he demolished Darby Allin, which says a lot about Darby Allin, like he fell off the cliff in terms of, interest. Like this was a guy that the crowd really, really, really liked. I'm talking really liked. This was a guy they said they're going to be their Jeff Hardy. And look at what they're doing to him. Like he's not established enough for you to be doing jobs like this. If he was Rey Mysterio and he had been around for 20 years, people still have all those, great memories of 20 years ago. They're booking Darby Allin like he's a veteran on the downslide, where, he's just getting his knuckles dusted every week. He's straight up dicking the dirt in this match. So Sting came down there to try to help him. He ended up getting flattened. Malachi Black and Brody King had decimated Sting and Darby Allin. And then Miro appears, kind of like the savior of Sting and Darby Allin. Interesting. But Malachi Black and Brody King sell Miro's appearance, and I was like, okay, good. He's not going to be ignored. He's actually going to come out there and face these guys. Okay, fine. Again, I'm a big fan of Miro. Miro versus Brody King could be fun. It's big meaty men slapping meat, and I love that. Miro versus Malachi Black is where money at. I can enjoy that. So that's something here that I can really like. So I don't really have a problem with this. Okay, so the feud itself is fine. So hopefully the promos will maintain my interest. Second match, Jon Moxley and Wheeler Yuta defeat the Best Friends. Who cares? Wheeler Yuta pinned Chuck Taylor, who was his mentor before he joined the Blackpool Combat Club. I don't really care. I don't really care. I mean, at this point, I was seeing pictures of how damn near empty their building was, and I was surprised at that. And I hate to talk about this kind of shit because, who cares really? But apparently, the camera side was naked almost. And I'm not talking about near hard cam. I'm talking like to the, I want to say the right of hard cam was naked. I mean, no seats at all. Likely what they did is they just moved all the people to one side, which is what WWE does when they have a poor building. It's likely, very likely, that they sold all those seats and then the scalpers couldn't make their money back, which is a big deal with AEW. It's entirely possible. But this is where I first started seeing pictures of AEW's buildings being damn near empty. And I was just kind of like, because they put a barbed wire match on this show. You would think that if anything is going to get people to come to the AEW show, it would be barbed wire. But it didn't work. But at the same time, the economy is shit. I'm gonna throw them some bail. The economy is garbage. The inflation is getting wild. Maybe people don't want to leave their house. It was Atlanta. I don't know what the ticket prices would have been. I'm gonna throw them some bail and say, man, maybe it was the bad economy. But they threw a barbed wire death match on this show and it didn't fill the building. I would be concerned. Just like, so many people are concerned about SummerSlam and Clash at the Castle and all that kind of stuff. And you're right to be. You're right to be, especially Clash at the Castle because they haven't done a UK pay-per-view in a long time. But WWE is also price gouging. But that's also inflation. It's hard to tell what's the difference. But at the same time, AEW, which is what we're talking about right now, did a real bad job on this show. And look at the card. The card is not good. And then it wasn't executed well either, so whatever. They have a shark mascot running around. I, like everybody else, thought that Sammy Guevara was going to be in this shark suit. And I'm kind of upset that there was nobody in the shark suit, at least that I saw. It could at least put Shark Boy in the shark suit. I don't know. There was a vignette for Claudio Castagnoli and Jonathan Gresham. They did a good job of showing Claudio's history of Ring of Honor. I'll say it for people who maybe weren't paying attention when I did the community post. But Claudio Castagnoli winning the Ring of Honor title right now is no different than, when Rob Van Dam won the ECW title after the restart. It's like, oh yeah, we forgot to do this very important thing at the time. Or it was not important at the time because they didn't need it, which is Paul Heyman's excuse for Rob Van Dam didn't need the title. But Jerry Lynn did, Steve Corino did, Mikey Whipwreck did. Whatever. So Jonathan Gresham being brought into AEW, they did nothing with him for all this time. He's been under AEW contract since the last Ring of Honor show. And they didn't really do anything with him. And now he's going to work up, I'm guessing this is going to be the main event or maybe the co-main event. Maybe the Briscoes and FTR were main event. And his first real title match, he's going to lose. So he's going to be exactly the same as everybody else from the last Ring of Honor show. Is that they're remaking Ring of Honor in Tony Khan's image, which is essentially Tony Khan wants Ring of Honor to be the Ring of Honor that it was 20 years ago. And it's not the same as 20 years ago. He's pushing all the same guys that were in Ring of Honor in years past. Everything that Ring of Honor built up in the later years, right before it closed, he's getting rid of it. So, I mean, some of that stuff wasn't any good, but some of it was good, and I hate to see it getting squandered this way, but it is what it is. It's his money. He's doling out the opportunities. It is what it is. But Jonathan Gresham should feel terrible. He was put into this faction with Tully Blanchard, and it says a lot, really, that Tully Blanchard is so much bigger than Jonathan Gresham, who is literally a human garden gnome. He's like Leprechaun in the Hood. And then you got this, this situation where he's going to lose his first title shot. Or you do something silly and you beat Claudio, which he shouldn't be losing right now. And they did this thing where they turned Gresham heel too, and that's fine. But they dropped everything that would have made Gresham interesting, which is the whole foundation stuff. They dropped all of that. So, I don't know, man. It just seems like Tony Khan didn't care about what Ring of Honor was doing, but he did feel the need to give some closure to that audience. That's why he did the last Ring of Honor show. But this one is, him saying, look, I'm doing something different. Wheeler Yuta being the pure champion is absolute basura. And I don't care about that. So we got a Swerve in Our Glory celebration. Kevin Gates was present to, quote unquote, show love. They even mentioned that he got 2 phones, which, if you don't know anything about rap music, that's Kevin Gates. I think it's pretty much his only hit song is I got 2 phones. That was years ago too, like years and years ago. Kevin Gates most recently made songs about doing perverted shit to female rappers. As a matter of fact, let's go into that. So, several years ago, what kind of derailed anybody's interest in Kevin Gates is the fact that he had sex with his cousin. And this is something that he has talked about on multiple occasions. Apparently, he was dating a girl, didn't know that the girl was his cousin. But then he continued to have sex with the girl even after he found out that the girl was his cousin. In addition to this same Kevin Gates in June 2022 said that he would drink Beyonce's urine. He said that in a rap song. He's that kind of attention-seeking motherfucker, He was just talking about this gross shit. This stuff he had sex with his cousin. He wants to drink Beyonce's piss. What is wrong with this clearly brain damaged, drug-addled weirdo? Like, it's weird. It's weird, okay? So, this is the kind of weirdo they brought this guy. As soon as I saw that shit, I was like, oh, come on. Come on. Kevin Gates fucked his cousin. Said that he wanted to drink Beyonce's urine. This guy is the guy you're going to put in this. Okay, sure, go for it. Whatever you say, boss. Anyway, Swerve talked about being a hip hop mogul. Did some banter with Kevin Gates. Keith Lee also bantered a little bit with Kevin Gates, and then went into his Sermon on the Mount. With your assistance, my brother Swerve and I have captured the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Now we shall lift them and toast. And I was like, oh boy. He said he was hot. He took his jacket off. It's Atlanta in the middle of the summer. You're 400 pounds. Of course you're hot. What are you doing? Then for some reason that was not properly explained. Well, I guess it was explained kind of, but we still didn't need this. Smart Mark Sterling comes out. I hate this fucking guy. Okay. I can't stand this fucking guy. He says that Keith Lee is lucky Swerve did not stab him in the back. and then said his petition to get Swerve booted off of AEW is almost complete. Then he asked Kevin Gates to sign the petition. He then demanded Kevin Gates sign the petition. Kevin Gates came from around the barricade. Mark Sterling fled. Gates came face to face with Tony Nese. Then he punched out Tony Nese, which was probably the highlight of Tony Nese's career. Getting punched out by a weirdo rapper is the highlight of Tony Nese's career. And then Mark Sterling got hit in the face with a cake because there was a cake for the Swerve in Our Glory celebration. They got a cake, and they hit him in the face with the cake. Look, I don't care about the cake spot. I don't care about the Tony Nese getting punched out spot. I don't care about most of this shit. To me, you got to do something better with these guys. This should have been the spot where FTR came out and said, look, you guys ain't got no business being the tag team champions. You guys ain't got... I know FTR had a match to sell later, and they did a very good job. Can't wait to talk about that. But Mark Sterling's not a wrestler, and Tony Nese is not a marketable wrestler, so what good was going to come out of this outside of doing some WWE type shit? So we go backstage. Dark Order is making fun of Butcher and Blade. They got shirts calling Butcher Butch. Then they got beat up. I was like, okay, what the fuck? What the fuck? Why do we need this? What did we gain from this? This sucked. Third match, Christian Cage and Luchasaurus versus the Varsity Blondes. Christian wearing a worked everyone shirt, which I think is kind of clever. He said he's going to outwork everyone. Then he got a new shirt that says worked everyone, which is a great job. But then he got worked. Luchasaurus comes in, does all the work, beats up the Varsity Blondes pretty much by himself. Christian gets the pin. Okay, right decision. Then Jungle Boy returned with a chair. Luchasaurus leaves the ring to block Jungle Boy's path. Jungle Boy looks at Luchasaurus in the eyes and he grabs the chair as if he's going to kind of hit Luchasaurus with it. Luchasaurus turns around, looks at Christian, and Christian is like, yeah, go ahead, take his head off. Do it. Then Luchasaurus stands side by side with Jungle Boy. And he lets Jungle Boy get in the ring, and Christian is just cussing him out, and then Christian flees as Jungle Boy chased him up into the rafters. And just like that, Luchasaurus is back to being a idiot. Okay, just like that. Now look, I'm okay with it only because they didn't even pretend that they was going to explain why Luchasaurus was hanging out with Christian. And the sharp turnaround was unexpected, so that means it's a nice little swerve. I mean, something about it told me that they was probably going to do that. They're probably going to have Christian hang out with Jungle Boy or hang out with Luchasaurus until Jungle Boy returned. But I don't know. Like, I'm of two minds on it. Like, I don't mind Luchasaurus changing on Christian so soon. I don't mind it. Plus, I think somebody on Twitter had a better idea to put Lance Archer with Christian. That's a better idea, because I actually like Lance Archer more than Luchasaurus. But I don't like Lance Archer either, so... They're just looking for another Tom Cole. That's what they're doing. Tom Cole was like... he was Food Stamp Batista. Now they're looking for another Food Stamp Batista to put with Christian. I guess Lance Archer will have to be the guy. I think Lance Archer, he needs it. Whoever said it, I wish I could remember their name. They was on Twitter. It's a good idea. Christian definitely needs a heater. And Luchasaurus was fine for that. But now they're going to take his heater away so soon. And they kind of blinked on letting Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy fight. Which probably would have been a better decision to have Jungle Boy storm the ring and for Luchasaurus to sort of, motion for Christian to leave and run away. And then Luchasaurus kind of just stands in between Christian and Jungle Boy without either one of them hitting each other. Where Christian is kind of hiding behind Jungle Boy. Then you build up over time where maybe do the big dramatic thing next week as Jungle Boy tries to cut a promo and he cuts his promo on Luchasaurus that gets him to come back to him. Would have been probably a little bit better, a little bit more dramatic. But I didn't hate the swerve. I really didn't. I only didn't like it because I don't like Luchasaurus, and therefore I don't like him as a babyface. I don't mind him as a heel, but as a babyface, You know, I'm all for quick turnarounds. By the way, I know some people get so upset about quick turnarounds. Like I really don't. Sometimes you don't expect things to go by quickly. I just want things to be explained. You know, and that's where they dropped the ball on this angle, is that there was no explanation for why Luchasaurus was hanging out with Christian. There was just no explanation for it. You know, like that's the problem for me. You know. Next, Gun Club is out here. They said that they don't want to have a match with the Acclaimed. They've been clearing the Acclaimed for months, and now they've cut them out of their lives. Then one of the Gun Club boys, I don't remember which one it was, challenged Max Caster to a rap battle and said that the winner of the rap battle can choose the stipulation of the match. The match that they just said he didn't want to have. The match that they just said he didn't want to have. Come on. Okay. The Gun Club, you know what? Don't hate them. They're just kind of there for me. I don't like them. Don't hate them. So Ricky Starks defeated Cole Carter to retain the FTW title. Cole Carter is Two Dimes. What was it? Troy Two Dimes Donovan from NXT. Apparently he got fired for taking drugs. So I'm guessing they were PEDs. Okay. Are they drug testing in AEW? How about that for a question? Are they drug testing in AEW? Because he got busted in NXT. He's a good-looking young kid. You still didn't get a lot out of him on this match. You know, this match was mostly about Ricky Starks. They didn't really do much. I think bringing Cole Carter out for this match was a little weird because this is his debut, as far as I know. And if this isn't his debut, he hasn't done anything here. So why does he warrant a spot on Dynamite? He should be, you know, darken it up and elevation it up or whatever. But I don't know, man. I don't understand what's going on here. Anyway, Cole Carter loses to a spear. You know, okay. Ricky Starks goes to the microphone and says that he wants another challenger. This leads to Danhausen answering the challenge and calling Ricky Starks Richard. His name is Richard Starks. God dang it. Okay. Dick Starks. Dick. That's so childish. Anyway. After finding out that his opponent was Danhausen, Ricky Starks says that he didn't mean right now. He doesn't want to have another match right now. And said that he'll fight him next week. So we're going to have Danhausen versus Ricky Starks next week. It seems that we're now starting to move towards Ricky Starks versus Hook for that FTW title, and Hook is going to win that title. I'm fine with that. The problem is we should have done this a long time ago, and we should have moved Ricky Starks on to something more important long ago. I think he's been the FTW champion longer than what Trump has been president. I think that he's had like an entire like 2 years as FTW champ. He's been champ forever. And this belt is not recognized by AEW. It's still not recognized. Therefore, nobody cares about it. It's a stolen valor belt. So this is weird. Like, can we get Ricky Starks to do something important? They'll give him another win. But since Hook and Danhausen are friends, Ricky Starks is going to embarrass him, and it's going to lead to Hook coming out there. All right, but we should have done this turn a long time ago. You know, we should have done, especially when Hook started to become a babyface and he started really to gain momentum. That's when they should have just had him challenge for the FTW title and then put Taz in a weird position where his protege has to fight his son. You know, they're still going to do that, but now they're at the point where not Danhausen, but Hook has lost a lot of his overness. He's not as over as he was a year ago. You know, what was the point of dragging your feet on that? I don't know. I don't know, and I don't pretend to know. All right, so Chris Statlander, Athena, and Willow Nightingale were backstage being corny. Apparently, Layla Gray didn't show up, so Chris Statlander is going to have to sit it out, and Athena will be wrestling tag team with Willow Nightingale. And Athena starts talking about winning championships, how, you know, maybe Chris Statlander should win the world title and she'll win the TBS title. And I'm like, what the fuck? Aren't we seem to be off that beaten path already. Athena is ice cold already. Has she been there a month yet? Well, I think she's been there probably a little over a month. Probably about 6 weeks, 7 weeks. This is Andrade all over again. Remember when they had Andrade coming in and it seemed like everything was going to be a big deal, and then he just started disappearing. Then he came back and started doing tag team matches. Then he started working on Dark all the time. Then he just wasn't being used at all. It seemed to me like the biggest thing you could do is to come into AEW. After that, it's all downhill from there. They're so happy that you're there, but they don't care if you don't actually do anything. So this leads to the tag team match later. Jade Cargill, Kiera Hogan defeat Willow Nightingale and Athena. Stokely Carmichael comes out and says that Layla Gary can't compete, but Statlander is banned, so he won't be getting slapped in the back of the head. I guess that's a running gag. I don't know anything about that. Jade Cargill talked about being born and raised in Atlanta, how she's been that bitch and always will be, but then I saw Jermaine Dupri. Jermaine Dupri is hanging out with Stokely Hathaway. Jermaine Dupri, king of the underage rapper. Jermaine Dupri, who signed Chris Cross and Lil Bow Wow. And I do not understand why that kept working. Him signing underage rappers. Like he became the king of it. That just became his thing. His claim to fame is being the producer and manager of, I don't know if he was their manager, but the producer for Chris Cross and putting Lil Bow Wow on. And I don't know, man. Sesame Street raps, that's his thing. Well, I guess he did the song with Jay-Z that I really liked. That's probably the second. No, it's the number one best Jermaine Dupri song in the world. Not a big fan of Jermaine Dupri. Just not. Don't really care for him. But, it's always nice that I could I recognize somebody on these shows. I mean, I very rarely do. So, he made money in a thing. So that works. It works for me. I don't care about this match. Jade Cargill won. Of course she did. She's never going to lose. So it is what it is. FTR comes out there and they cut a promo. The promo was tremendous. Cash said that no match is bigger than them than their match with the Briscoes. And they respect the Briscoes and the Briscoes' contributions to tag team wrestling, but if they want to take their titles, they're going to give them a hell of a fight. Okay, not bad. Dax tells a story of a 5-year-old girl with an irregular heartbeat. The girl has a hole in her heart. The doctors tell her if she works very hard, she might be able to live a normal life despite this hole in her heart. 3 years later, the hole is completely closed because the girl busted her ass. And if she fought for something, then her daddy can too. And then he ends with the line, I'm going to fight like an 8-year-old girl and beat your ass. And you know what? This is one of the greatest babyface promos I probably have ever heard. This is a fantastic fucking promo. This is a tremendous fucking promo. I am all in on this shit. Right? Now, yes, it kind of meandered a little bit. And yeah, you could guess the punchline as he was talking about it. You could guess the punchline that the girl was going to come through and it was going to be his daughter and everything. But he said it with such passion and conviction that I still enjoyed the ride to get there. This was phenomenal, right? This was really good shit. FTR are showing why they are, I mean, it's unequivocal at this point. They're the best tag team in the business. The Usos are very good. The Usos are tremendous. But FTR is clicking on all fucking cylinders. They know who they are. They know where they want to be. They know where they want to go. They have all these titles. They're having badass matches. They're clicking everywhere. They're doing all the right stuff. FTR is on the run of a lifetime right now. And if Tony Khan was interested in any way in making money, they would have either challenged Swerve in Our Glory already, or they should be the tag team champions of AEW by now. But apparently Tony Khan has decided he's not going in that direction. Maybe after they're done with the Briscoes, they'll go in that direction. But I am deeply perturbed that FTR not being focused on. They should be the crown jewels of the tag team division in AEW. I mean, it is what it is. These guys are too good. Jay Lethal, he cuts a promo. He's there. Sanjay Dutt, the most useless man in wrestling, he's also there. He's wearing a Shark Week hat, and if you could drown a shark, I would. I want to just grab Sanjay Dutt by the back of his fucking head and launch him into a wall. I can't stand this fucking guy. He's the most useless man in the business. Anyway, Jay Lethal doesn't want to wait for Samoa Joe, but he's upset Samoa Joe don't show up to work. Christopher Daniels, for some reason, is caping and throwing Samoa Joe some bail. I don't know where this comes from. And he challenged Jay Lethal to a match on Rampage. I was like, that's interesting. I would have preferred that match on this show rather than some of the shit that was on this show. I would have preferred, and I know Christopher Daniels is washed. I know that. But I still would have preferred that over some of this shit. I mean, look at this. What is this fucking shit that we got here? Willow Nightingale and John Moxley and Wheeler Yuta. I mean, come on, fuck out of here with these guys. Thunderstorm, they're back. Rosa will defend her title against Miyu Yamashita at Fight for the Fallen. So AEW is going to have 5 straight episodes. Well, 6 because they're probably going to be a Fight for the Fallen Rampage. Straight special event Dynamites. You're going to have 2 Rampages, 2 Dynamites, and now Fight for the Fallen, which is probably going to be Rampage and Dynamite too. Now, this is their version. I had to look this up because I didn't understand what the Fight for the Fallen shit was all about. So I just did a quick Google search during the commercial. And it's basically their version of Tribute to the Troops. But it's not for a specific thing. Like for, I think 2019, it was gun violence. In 2020, it was pandemic related. So it's for where I think the gate receipts, they said, goes to a charity. That's why, which is part of the reason why I talked about their attendance earlier. Because they need that money if it's going to look like that. If it's going to be naked in certain parts. You're like, you probably should keep that money for yourself. I think the best charity should be AEW. But, and maybe Tony Khan should just cut a check. He got the money. Just, maybe not, just cut a check, brother. Anyway, it's just going to be a different branded show every week. I don't care about this Miyu Yamashita stuff, man. It's like, so what? Thunder Rosa's hanging out with Tony Storm now. They're leaning more and more into a women's tag team title in AEW, which they probably should have started earlier this year. They should have started it when they did that tournament that Diamante and Ivelisse won. That should have been their women's tag team championship tournament. They botched the hell out of that. But who cares? So Britt Baker interrupts, which is the right thing to do. Then said that we don't need any more Thunder Rosa promos, which is absolutely correct. And then said she wanted to have a match on Rampage. But the way this was formed, I thought she wanted to wrestle Thunder Rosa and Tony Storm on Rampage. To which I was about to say, I would rather have watched that than Jade Cargill and Willow Nightingale. I didn't want to see that at all. But apparently what they're going to do is they're going to give Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter a tag team match, so it won't be against Thunderstorm. Okay, whatever. So we got to talk about this barbed wire thing. Finally, we got here. I know you've been patiently waiting for me to talk about this barbed wire death match. So, for starters, JAS come out and they get into the shark cage. Okay, fine. The shark cage has its own lights and its own music and everything. They really WWE ended up here. Jericho definitely suggested that. So Jericho comes out, he's wearing a mask, and he is, quote, the undefeated in AEW, the Japanese Terror, the Painmaker. And I was like, oh, the Japanese Terror, is it? So he's Godzilla. Does Ultraman need to show up, or Kamen Rider needs to show up and take care of this problem? Because apparently, nobody else can. Okay. So Eddie Kingston, Muffin Top Kingston, he comes out there, Brooklyn Brawler, Eddie Kingston. He comes out there, and they immediately turned this match into a joke. Immediately. he snatches Justin Roberts' microphone that I didn't notice was covered in barbed wire until he grabbed it and started stabbing Jericho in the head. And I was like, the microphone is covered in barbed wire. And then the ring bell is covered in barbed wire. Like, okay, so this is a joke. Oh, there's barbed wire everywhere in match. Like, why is it comedy, though? Like, why is it comedy? Why is that? This is supposed to be a serious fight in a serious feud. Why is it comedy? Anyway, Eddie Kingston then took a hurricanrana later in the match after Jericho's all bleedy and stuff. He took a hurricanrana from the top rope onto a barbed wire board of some kind. And the barbed wire must have got stuck in his crotch because as they went to commercial, the referee had to help him get the barbed wire out of his crotch, which, you know, it is what it is. So Ruby Soho is watching the match, and she gets attacked from behind by Ty Conti. My first question, why isn't Ty Conti in the cage? She's a member of the Jericho Appreciation Society. She should be in the cage, right? Right. So Ty Conti and Ruby Riott are fighting. Then Anna Jay runs down to the ring and helps Ty Conti. So she turns heel, helped Ty Conti, shoved Ruby Riott into the pole. Okay. Then Anna Jay goes over to the lever and she lets down the Jericho Appreciation Society. Okay. Then Ty Conti has the key because she has the key to the lock. And she's trying to unlock the door. And she can't do it. She is unsuccessful in unlocking this door. Well, unlocking the cage. And so the Jericho Appreciation Society guys start slipping through the bars to get out so they won't miss their cue. Because Ty Conti has completely botched this thing. Okay? It's botched the hell up. Eddie Kingston's guys, of course, come to the ring and they all fight. And then they fight off, of course. This leads for Eddie Kingston to get Jericho in the neck crank. As he does this, Sammy Guevara comes in, super kicks him, causes some kind of distraction. Then Judas Effect, Jericho wins. This was a mess. Not only did I not want to see a barbed wire match, I had no interest in that. But then they undercut the Jericho Appreciation Society in the shark cage. One, by having members not in the shark cage. Because Ty Conti and Sammy Guevara are both members. They turned, 3 or 4 weeks ago? And has been hanging out with Jericho ever since. Why wouldn't they be in the shark cage? It would be one thing if this was Sammy Guevara's turn. And he is the one who let down the cage and let this stuff happen. That would have been okay. You know, that would have been all right. But then you wouldn't have had your big change, your big turn several weeks ago. So the big turn, they wanted it to be Anna Jay. Okay. That's perfectly fine. You didn't need Ty Conti out there, though. Ty Conti should have been in the cage. So if you have Ruby out there watching, and then she doesn't see that Anna Jay attacks her from behind, blasts her with some brass knuckles or hits her with a chair or something like that, you could have got, oh no, Anna Jay turned. And then Anna Jay lets down. She could have did all that stuff herself. Let down the cage, unlocked it, or fumble fucked and tried to unlock it. And was the reason why, because she never was actually a member of the Jericho Appreciation Society, so she wouldn't have been in the cage. Right? Nobody's going to explain to me why Ty Conti wasn't in that cage. Or why Sammy Guevara wasn't in the cage. Unless you telling me they have to take a blood oath to get put into the Jericho Appreciation Society, you would think them hanging around with Jericho all this time would put them in the Jericho Appreciation Society. I mean, and I remember having this conversation because I said, isn't Sammy and Ty members of Jericho? No, they were never officially members. They were on the Blood and Guts team. Like, what? Like, come on. Explain that to me, man. I get it. You wanted to subvert the rule. Fine. Anna Jay's heel turn would have subverted the rule. That would have been fine on its own. You didn't have to overbook this. Okay? You didn't have to overdo it. Eddie Kingston losing. Okay, perfectly fine. I mean, whatever. I don't care that Eddie Kingston lost. But we're going towards an Eddie Kingston out and Sammy Guevara feud, which, you know, I'm not so sure. It might be a good thing for Sammy Guevara. Not necessarily a good thing for for Eddie Kingston. Because Eddie Kingston loses all his big feuds. He is AEW's version of Mick Foley. He loses all his big feuds, but he's somebody that people will always believe in because he's a lovable loser with great promo skills. He's a tough guy who's willing to take the beatings. So it is what it is. But I didn't really care for the main event. I didn't like this show. I just didn't. To me, Jericho seems like a guy who wants the credit for doing death matches and that kind of stuff, but he never really wants to go all in. Like, he kind of half-asses it, you know, to me. They did the big bump at the end where Jericho gets thrown into the barbed wire table or whatever, and he sells it by shaking it. Ah! But that's just Shakespeare, man. Like, it's real Shakespeare. This barbed wire match did not feel at all like the barbed wire matches of the past. Like, you look at, you know, Funk and Sabu, like, every time they touched that barbed wire, there was cuts. There was, you know, all kinds of stuff going on with them. So what they're telling me is this is Fugazi barbed wire because it's on TV. And they were just using the word barbed wire to get people to watch it, which is, you know, carny. That's carny as fuck. I'm not going to doubt it. I'm not going to take a shot at it, though, because it's not supposed to be real. It's only supposed to look real. You know, it's only supposed to look real. But the comedy to start with the barbed wire microphone, I didn't like that. I didn't like Ty Conti being out there. It just made no sense to me. Sammy Guevara saving Jericho is perfectly fine. Everybody thought he was going to be dressed as that shark. I'm glad he didn't do that, you know, because it would have been very cliche. But you would have had to come up with some excuse why Sammy Guevara wasn't in the shark cage. You know, maybe they could have lied and said Sammy missed his flight and he wasn't going to be there. You know, and then you wouldn't have had Ty Conti be there either. You know, or whatever. So there's ways around this. I'm okay with people subverting their rules sometimes. You know, sometimes people do interfere in Hell in a Cell matches or whatever. You know, sometimes. But it was just too much, and I just didn't care anymore. By the time this match was over, I was glad it was over. I was glad this whole show was over. But let me know what you guys think. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.